Today there is an thing happening, MSME. Everyone who are doing starting a business can start with MSME, and government has assured that any payment not paid to MSME, government will make steps to recover it. All over India, this is the main problem. We supply goods, we supply services, but we don't get the payment within the prescribed time. So government has clearly said in Chapter 5 of MSME Act 2006, delayed payments to micro and small enterprises. This is a chapter we're going to clearly see over this point of time. Let's start. First point, liability of the buyer to make payment. So it is a liability of the buyers to pay payment. One, when any supply of services or any goods are rendered or any services to the buyer shall make the payment therefore on or before the date agreed. So before the day, on the day of the agreed date between the supplier and the buyer, or supplier of the buyer of the goods, in writing, or there is no agreement on behalf before the appointment date. So even though there is a writing or no agreement, that is what is in writing, you can provide an invoice. This invoice is more than sufficient to state that I have provided some service. In this agreement I clearly state this is a service I provide, this is the value of taxable value, this is the GST amount, and on this day I provided, this is my account number, this is your account, this is your address, and it's your name. In this date, this is the invoice number. All the things has been given in the invoice, and I clearly state you need to make the payment within the next 45 days, or as I am registered in MSME Act, we may go for arbitration, or we may go and seek the court of law. Such kind of thing can be given. If not, the no agreement is also not made the behalf, no problem. Provided no case of period agreed upon between supplier and buyer in writing shall exceed 45 days on the day of acceptance or the day of deemed acceptance. So such agreement can't exceed 45 days. That's it. From the acceptance or deemed, in case of written agreed upon between the suppliers in writing shall exceed 45 days. Okay. So this clearly Act says we will give you 45 days, only the 45 days time. Date for which and the rate at which interest is payable. So interest is payable. Why 45 days period has been, that limit has been gone. So who failed to make the payment? Buyer failed to make the payment. To whom? The supplier. Which is required under section 15, previously seen, section 15. The buyer shall, notwithstanding anything contained in any agreement between buyer and supplier or in any of time being forced, liable to pay compound interest with monthly rest to supplier. So compound interest paid monthly, rest to supplier. From what date? From the appointment date, as the case may be, from the day immediately following the date agreed upon. Hey, I got the invoice on this date. No. On what date I appoint as a service, from that day you need to pay. Or the day immediately following the date agreed upon. We made an agreement, I sent you an invoice now, from that day. 3 times the bank. You want to pay 3 times. 3 times the bank rate notified by the RBI. What is it? In RBI will notify repo rate, or in this rate banks to be issuing interest. That is usually 8% to 9%. Now 3 times, so 27%, 24% to 27% you can charge interest monthly basis on compound basis. Third point, that is section 17, recovering of amount in due. Who can recover this money? That's a big question, right? Recovering of amount due. For any goods and supply or service rendered by a supplier, the buyer shall liable to pay the amount with interest. So whatever the interest rate specified by the RBI, thrice the rate, monthly basis, compound interest, as section liable to pay under section 15, need to pay under section 17. The recovery of amount due shall include the interest also, not only the principal amount. That is being clearly said. Next, reference to micro small enterprises facilitating council. What is saying? Notwithstanding anything contained in the law for the time being in force, any party to a dispute may, with regard to any amount under section 17. What is section 17? Recovery of amount in buyer need to pay with interest amount, principal amount, or both interest and principal amount, whichever say, with reference to the micro small enterprises facilitating council. On the receipt of the reference under subsection 1, the council shall either itself conduct a conciliation in the manner to seek the assignment from any institution or center providing alternative dispute resolution. So the council may approach anything to seek assistance or solve this issue. They can seek any institution. Service may be referred such institution or center for conducting consultation and the provision of section 65 to 81 of Arbitration Council Act. Any person who are there under section 65-81 of Arbitration Council Act 1966 shall apply to the dispute if in the consolidation of initiate under part 3 of the act. Any person whose institution providing such arbitration service can come, they will appoint them, they will speak to both parties and they come to it. Where the conciliation initiated under subsection 2 not successful, they appointed someone and there is no progress. The buyer said I won't pay and seller asking more money. Wow. Not successful. The standard terminate without any settlement between the parties. Council shall either itself take up the dispute for arbitration or refer an attorney institution or a center providing alternate dispute resolution services of such arbitration provided under Arbitration Council Act 1996. So provide alternative or attorney they can appoint itself. This applied to the arbitration to pursue the arbitration agreed reference to the subsection 1 of section 7 of the act. Okay. Section 7 what they perform. And notwithstanding anything contained in other law for the time being in force, micro, medium, micro and small enterprises, the Auxiliary Council in the center providing alternative dispute resolution service shall have jurisdiction to the act as arbitrator or conciliator under the section is dispute between the buyer located in its jurisdiction and the buyer located anywhere in India. So supplier, which jurisdiction you can follow, because if time the seller may be in Chennai but the buyer may be in Maharashtra, which jurisdiction? Always located in the jurisdiction of the supplier. If in Chennai and in Tuticorin, Chennai. In Delhi is supplier and Tuticorin is a buyer, Delhi. Every reference made under the section shall be decided upon the period of 90 days from date of making such reference. 90 days from making such reference. Good. 90. Application for sitting aside degree, award or order. Sitting aside degree, award and order. No application for setting aside any degree, award or other order made either by the council itself or by any institution center providing alternate dispute resolution services in which reference is made by the council shall be entertained by the court unless appellant, not being the supplier, has deposited with 75% of the amount terms of the degree, award or the case may be other order in the manner directed by such court. What happens sometimes some person may go, I will challenge in the court, I am going, I am no need to case, like they will move on. Can they move on? They can move on only when they deposit 75% of the amount which had been asked by the supplier. If not, the appellant, who is the appellant? The buyer who got the services, who need to pay us, can quote until they paid 75%. Provided the pending disposal of the application to set aside the degree, award or the court shall order such percentage of amount deposit shall be paid to the supplier as it considered reasonable under circumstances of the case and subject to the condition it deemed necessary imposed. there is a pending disposal in application, a degree award or court order, then what else? They shall deposit or paid a considerable amount under circumstances which are reasonable in the circumstances. Then after they can dispose, or not they can't. Establishment of Micro and Small Enterprises Facilitation Council. A state government shall, by notification, establish one or more Micro Small Enterprises Facilitation Council at such place, exercising such jurisdiction for such area as may be prescribed. So, state government should provide some facilitation, that is what state government. The composition of Micro Small Enterprises Council. So, who and all will be in the council? This is the act says. Okay, that's not our problem. The requirement to specify unpaid amount with interest in the annual statements of account. What happens? Unpaid amounts with interest in the annual accounts of accounts. Who will bear? Any buyer is required to get its annual accounts audited under by audited under the law, Income Tax Act or any act, time being in force. Such buyer shall furnish the following additional information in its annual statement. What are they? Principal amount and interest due to be shown separately. Remaining unpaid to supplier. What are the money unpaid to supplier? They should show specifically. Other than MSME, to MSME in every year they should show. The amount of interest paid by the buyer under section 16 along with the amount of payment made to the supplier beyond the appointment date during the period. What is the interest they need to pay if they are not able to pay within 45 days? That should be mentioned separately. The amount of interest due and payable for the period delay of in making the payment, which is not beyond the appointment during the year, but with without adding the interest specific act. So they need to pay what is the delay period, what is the amount being paid. They should specifically mention the interest. That is process point. The amount insured accrued and remaining unpaid in the end of year. What is the amount interest? What is accrued? What is remaining paid? Such all should all that detail also should be furnished. The amount of further interest remaining due and payable even in succeeding year until such date the interest dues or amount actually paid to small enterprises for the purpose of disallowance in the disallowable expenditure. What happens if a person come to arbitrator, they pay 75% of the payment or 80%, they go to court, I will challenge the court, they gone out. So what happens till the court says no problem, you can go, until that day he need to pay that the remaining part, the interest that will be accrued every year, every month, compounding interest should be accounted in the books until otherwise the court says. And such interest which is paid should be disallowed under section 23 of the Income Tax Act. That's what they clearly saying. Interest not allowed in the deduction of income tax. That was saying section 43 of the 1961 Income Tax Act. The interest payable or paid by the buyer under the accordance with the provision of the Act, MSME, shall not be for the purpose of computing total income. So it will be disallowed, can't be considered deduction. Overriding effect, section 15 to section 23 shall have effect notwithstanding anything inconsistent therein contained in any other law for the time being force. So it has an overriding effect. Provision of section 15 to 23. What is 15? Section 15 to 23 can override any act as being time being in force. So whatever the act, whatever the rules, it can override every act. If the person is registered in MSME, they need to pay some money. They are not paid, they can override. Scheme on the closure of the business of micro, medium, small enterprises. Closure of business of notwithstanding anything containing any law time being force, central government may, with a view of facilitating closure of a business of micro, medium, small enterprises, not being a company registered under the Companies Act, notify the scheme within 1 year from the date of commencement of Act. The scheme closure, they are going to say micro, medium, small enterprises, we are going to close it before 1 year. That's a rule. Okay. I have discussed this briefly. If I have any doubt in MSME, I can go a last revision for it. So that will be very careful. First point, what they said, liable to pay payment. So from the date of the service received, they need to pay. Was from the date of the invoice, they should pay. Date from the date, liable to pay buyer is like both supply and the services are liable to pay, and the agreement should be written or non-written, no problem. Recovery of the amount due, recovery from the date of the services rendered. So payable with interest, compound interest. A reference to micromanagement, first whatever they will first you made the application, they will appoint an assistant or institution to provide solution. If not, they will sir come and make arbitration. If not, the court case going on. In this problem, they can go to court. They can't go to court until and unless they pay 75% amount. They can go to court. So government should form a council for this. So every state government should form a council. Who are the members that is given? What if the unpaid amount, where should he show? In his auditor finance statement, he should show what is the principal out statement for MSME and others, and what is the interest payable amount. Even though he paid part of the amount, unpaid amount, and court the case is pending, he need to make that compounding interest every year until the court cases be closed or arbitration is closed. He should mention each and everything. Second, interest paid can be taken as a deduction. No, in income tax you can't take any deduction. And what is the effect? This act will override all the act in the state or central, whatever the act may be. Any supplier who is registered under the MSME Act need to get interest. The interest is twice the amount of the RBI. This is the act we have seen. Any doubt in it, please comment it. I can clarify it. Bye.